When the thug threatened me with my childhood friend's life to reveal the school beauty's whereabouts, I told them. The next day her nude photos and videos were leaked across the internet. She died with hatred in her heart. My childhood friend held me comforting me, "It wasn't your fault." Later we fell in love. Got married. But in our second year of marriage he had me forcibly committed to a psychiatric hospital. On the day I was about to die he gently stroked my hair and whispered, "Selena, do you know that day was supposed to be our anniversary?" So he had always resented me. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day I had been cornered. Chapter 1. Selena, come with me. Even though Luis's brows were tightly furrowed his voice was still gentle. But I flinched in fear. Why? Because during those days when I was driven insane by torture, he used to hold me, kiss my hair and gently whisper cruel things like, "Selena, you should repent. Selena, everything happening now is punishment for your sins. Selena, don't die, okay? The living suffer more." Tears welled in my eyes. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. Luis thought I was scared of the thugs behind us. He gripped my wrist tightly. "Don't be afraid. I'm here." A woman's broken voice echoed behind us, fading into the night. "Luis, are you leaving me?" It was Julia. The school beauty from class 1. The source of my suffering. Luis didn't respond. He looked at me instead. "Come with me, okay?" I stared at his hypocritical smile, exactly like the one in my past life. Between Julia and me he always chose me. Chapter 2. I knew, over 20 thugs were about to swarm in to avenge their boss's woman. This was the only chance to escape. I turned to run. But Luis stopped me. He lifted my hoodie and pulled it over my head. He paused deliberately. Then tugged me deeper into the alley. Sure enough I heard those rough voices. "There. Luis is over there. Catch those 2 cheating bastards." In the howling wind I watched him clutch my fingers tightly. How laughable. Living this life again, I began to remember the details. Why did he put the hood over my head? Because Julia and I had similar builds, but different hair colors. She had dyed her hair red in rebellion. Why did he pause on purpose? Because he wanted to make sure the thugs saw him. So they would chase us, not her. Not Julia, who had already slipped away in the opposite direction. I laughed through my tears. Luis thought I was scared. Even now in this crisis. He still tried to soothe me. "Selena, don't be afraid. You'll be all right." How could I be all right? I've already died once. Because of you. Chapter 3. Just like in the previous life. We were cornered at the same alley entrance. The thugs roughly yanked my hood off. Shit. It's not Julia. Where the hell did that bitch Julia go? One of them punched Luis to the ground and furiously began kicking him in the gut. Luis struggled to get up, but there were too many of them. He couldn't stand. The leader was a thug named Eric. He ran this turf. Julia had provoked him. He raised his foot and ground Luis's face into the mud. I've fucked women all my life, never been fucked over by a woman. Julia's the first. If she loves you that much, think, if I cripple you, would she still love you, HM? Eric crouched slowly, his index finger trembling as he tapped a cigarette. Ash and tiny embers fell onto Luis's face. He pointed at me. Is this your chick? Luis's eyelids twitched violently. No. You say no and that's it? Fine, brother gives you 2 options. He held up 2 fingers. Option 1, I take her right here, then we're square. Option 2, you tell me where Julia is, and the rest's none of your problem. Which one you pick? 2 choices. Was I still going to pick Julia? Chapter 4. In my memory, Luis had always chosen me. From kindergarten through high school. We studied together, took extracurricular classes together, traveled together. We lived across the hall, like a pair of childhood sweethearts straight out of a fairy tale, walking from school uniforms to wedding gowns. But even golden couples face trials. After all, who sails through life without storms? Our test came in the form of someone named Julia. She was like a stone thrown into still water, shattering its tension. When I first heard her name I wasn't on guard. Because whenever Luis mentioned her his handsome features always scrunched up his voice full of impatience, a sharp contrast to his usual gentleness. Julia is so annoying. I haven't practiced piano properly these days. Every competition she skips class to watch me. Now she's stuck cleaning as punishment. She keeps stuffing love letters into my hands. I throw them all in the trash. He'd say this with a sparkle in his eyes as if expecting praise. Too many people liked Luis. I didn't pay much attention. Later, after Luis rejected her several times, Julia stopped pestering him. She'd ride off after school on the back of Eric's motorcycle. She was seen by classmates kissing Eric in the billiard hall. The teachers wouldn't even spare her a glance. The students snickered in private, calling her shameless. Until one quiz. The math teacher skipped over her completely, handing a paper to Luis instead. Luis suddenly spoke up. "Teacher, why didn't you give Julia a paper?" The teacher frowned. "Even if I do, she won't write it. Always a blank." Luis, hearing that, handed her his own test. "Would you be able to write this one?" Julia smiled. Playfully winked at him. "If you give it to me, of course I can write it." Luis nodded and took a fresh sheet for himself. I watched all of this silently. After school, he took the initiative to explain. "I just think, as classmates, it's wrong to isolate someone like that. Even though we were childhood sweethearts and close, we had never defined a relationship early on. So as a friend, what could I say?" I said, "I believe you." Later, Julia seemed to be turning her life around. She even came to this friends gathering. And on the day I died, Luis finally told me. That day he had planned to announce their relationship to everyone. That day they became a couple. But that day I ruined it all. Chapter 5. The stick struck Luis's legs. Boots slammed into his chest. The thugs glared at me like wolves. He must have been in terrible pain. But he only bit his lip, muffled groans escaping. Someone had already started tugging at my waistband, a few filthy laughs ringing out. Even so, Luis still hadn't chosen anyone. Silence was a choice. He chose to take the pain just to keep Julia from being found. Even if he got hurt. Even if I got hurt. Eric gave me a look. "Little girl, you want to tell me where Julia is?" My clothes had already been torn open, exposing my curves. The thug's eyes grew hungrier. He slammed Luis's leg with the stick again. I frowned. Eric asked, "Does it hurt, seeing your little boyfriend like this?" "Now I'll break his leg." "Heard he plays piano." He pulled out a knife. "How about I cut off his hand?" In my previous life I couldn't handle any of this. I'd followed the rules, studied hard just to make it into the top university. All this was beyond my capacity. Luis was a prodigy, just discovered by a talent scout about to shine at a piano competition. So when the knife stabbed into his wrist, I cried and screamed. I gave up Julia's location. I knew which way she'd run. Luis shut his eyes in pain, struggling, crying. "Selena, if you'd just held on a bit longer." He was right. Just 3 more minutes and we would have heard the police sirens. The next day, Julia's nudes and videos flooded the internet. At school they said the beauty queen had become a joke. Later she fell. Like a beautiful butterfly plunging into the void, losing her life. Her blood felt like an accusation. I trembled uncontrollably. That day Luis held me in his arms. I sobbed. "I'm sorry." He said, "Selena, it's not your fault." Chapter 6. Now. I looked at Luis. Softly. "Luis, you really don't want me to speak?" I looked at his long beautiful hands, a knife poised above them. "Your hand will be ruined, you won't be able to play piano." "What then?" Luis's eyes were blood red. He was making his choice. But how precious is a boy's courage. In just 1 second he firmly told me. "Don't." He whispered, "Selena, don't you dare." I smiled. The next second Eric plunged the knife deep into his palm. Blood welled from the wound. That hand no longer looked like it belonged to a pianist. 3 minutes was too long. I glanced toward an old residential building not far away. A single light stayed on. Hands ripped at my clothes, too many reaching to touch. I struggled with all my might. When my strength was almost gone, a long leg kicked the thug off me. A hand grabbed mine and we ran. Someone chased after us, but I used the last of my strength to run with him. Clearly he knew the area well. After twisting through alleys we shook them off. We hid together in a dark stairwell. Only when the police sirens wailed did I dare to breathe again. He removed his mask. His name was Kevin. I knew him but not well. We shared the same exam hall for monthly tests. Kevin, still panting, released my hand. "Sorry. Didn't want trouble and they were too many." I could only save the one who wasn't already hurt. I knew. He was the one who'd called the police. But tonight's ordeal nearly crushed me. Before I could say thank you, darkness closed in. I fainted. Chapter 7. When I opened my eyes again, I was in the hospital. Selena, you're awake. I turned my head, it was my mom. Her eyes were bloodshot, her hair messy. Clearly she hadn't slept all night. Tears burst from my eyes. Mom. In my previous life after Luis had me committed to the psychiatric ward, they weren't even allowed to visit me. My graceful, elegant mother stormed into Luis's office and cursed him like a madwoman. But at the time Luis's career was soaring, my mother had no power over him. I sat up hugging her, voice trembling. Mom, I missed you so much. She patted my back gently. Selena, don't be afraid. I'm here. After crying into her shoulder for a while, my brain finally started working again. Right, what about Kevin? I scanned the room. My mom mistook my gaze and sighed. Luis isn't here. He hasn't woken up yet. He had surgery right after he arrived last night. Poor boy. Surgery? She nodded and opened the lunchbox she'd brought, then hesitated about to close it again. Forget it, you probably don't have the appetite. I snatched it immediately. No, I'm starving. Physically I was fine, just shocked. Now my stomach was ravenous. I devoured her pork rib soup. Mom, how's Luis? She clicked her tongue. His right hand was nearly severed. The doctors spent the whole night trying to reattach it. But... She looked pained. Go on, I said. Gossip pairs perfectly with soup. She sighed. The nerves are damaged. They said he may never regain proper function, might not even be able to hold heavy things. I added, let alone play piano, right? She nodded solemnly. This was a choice Luis made willingly. His entire family had always protected his hands. He wasn't allowed to carry heavy things, never touched anything sharp. When he was little, their pet cat scratched his hand once. It was rehomed the next day. He loved playing piano. Even when the practice got dull, he loved it. He once wore a tailored suit, performing under thousands of lights, dazzling and brilliant. His eyes were full of pride and confidence. But now, he seemed to love Julia more than the piano. Time passed. Before I realized it, the college entrance exams were over. Luis's parents went white with worry. They traveled between Beijing and Shanghai searching for specialists, arranging surgeries, but none of them worked. His right hand would never regain its strength. He could no longer play. But at least, he lost a hand and gained a love story. I saw Julia again at the convenience store downstairs. Since Luis was hospitalized, she had been taking care of him, even agreeing to repeat a year with him. Luis's mother, once strongly opposed, had quietly accepted it. His leg had mostly healed. The two of them were inside the store doing rehab exercises like no one else existed. Julia held Luis's hand. Luis, I'm writing letters in your palm. Guess what they are, okay? Luis smiled, indulgent. Okay. She traced gently on his skin. I saw his ears turning red. She kissed his cheek. I propped my chin and watched them like an audience at a show. Then my phone lit up. Roxana. Selena, wanna catch a play later? The male lead is smoking hot. I replied, no need. There's already a performance in front of me. I snapped a picture of the two and sent it to her. Julia was now guiding Luis to read the letters out loud. Luis chuckled. Julia, I love you. And then, they kissed. Deeply. In public. Roxana texted, show me a live stream. I laughed, don't dirty your eyes. She chuckled but hesitated. Selena, do you still love Luis? Not just no. I kind of ship them now. As I stood to leave, Julia looked straight at me. Luis had his back turned. Her hand was wrapped around his neck. Her expression said it all. She'd won. I suddenly remembered something. Back before she spiraled, Julia once looked at me with envy and said, Luis likes girls like you, huh? Obedient and soft. I'm not as well behaved, but I am prettier than you. How did you make Luis love you so much? Teach me. I'm not some fake sweet girl. I only know how to shoot my shot. Luis had pulled her wrist away in irritation. To me he said gently, Selena, head home first. Julia's beautiful eyes filled with tears. Luis, my wrist hurts. But Luis didn't loosen his grip. Not an ounce of pity. Later I followed them to the academic building. I heard them arguing. Luis shouted, "I don't like you." That sentence shattered something in Julia. She threw herself at him and bit his lips hard. "My first kiss is yours. So I don't regret it. But that might be the only thing you get." Her fall was what finally won him over. I guess she was the victor. But then again, the prize I wanted was never Luis's love. It was my exam scores. She and I were never even running the same race. Chapter 8. The day college entrance exam results were released, I went to find Kevin. He was working the cashier at the convenience store. When he saw me, he blushed and tugged nervously at the corner of his shirt. Seeing that I felt a little shy too. Honestly, during our school days my memory of Kevin was faint. If studying took up 90% of my focus, Luis had taken the remaining 10%. At our school, seating for monthly exams was ranked by grades. I was always first in our grade. Kevin sat right behind me every time. I remembered his worn t-shirts. The soft scent of soap he carried. But our only real contact was the occasional brush of fingertips when passing papers. Kevin had been tucked away in the dusty box of my memory. Back in the psych ward, Luis had me confined. Nurses often left on the entertainment channel, Luis serenading a new music prodigy or dating a sweet innocent girl. All just to torture me. I hated it. So when no one was watching, I secretly switched to the finance channel. And there he was, Kevin. Already a rising star in tech. Handsome, smart, wealthy. A media darling. It was a simple interview. "Mr. Kevin, has anyone ever left a deep impression on your life?" Kevin paused. "Yes." The host lit up. "Can you share?" Kevin smiled faintly, like recalling a distant warmth. "In school, our grade's top scorer. A girl. Yeah. A brilliant one. I always sat behind her in monthly exams. They used to call me the eternal second place. After every test I'd look at her name on the leaderboard and swear I'd beat her next time." "Did you ever beat her?" Kevin paused again. Lowered his eyes. "I did. But, if I could choose, I'd rather she stayed number one. So she could always be my unreachable son." The host tried to dig deeper, but Kevin declined politely. I stared at the screen, stunned. Didn't even notice when the nurse switched the channel back to gossip. I curled up, buried my head in my knees, and cried for a long, long time. Chapter 9. I walked up to the counter. Didn't know how to speak. Kevin beat me to it. Long time no see, top scorer. My result was the highest in the school. Kevin came second, by 3 points. I chuckled. "Thanks. Where are you applying?" Still undecided. "You. Beijing U. Always been my dream." He smiled. "Then me too." Funny. I remembered he'd applied to Huada in the last life. He reached out. "Guess we're schoolmates now." His schoolmate carried a touch of something else. His hand was pale, long-fingered, and elegant. I placed mine lightly in his. "Let's take care of each other, schoolmate. What time do you get off work? Want to go over applications together?" Kevin checked the clock. "Not until 10. Why don't you head home?" "I'll come by tomorrow." I shook my head. Grabbed instant noodles and Odin. "I'm hungry. I'll just wait here." He took the food, but scanned his own code. "I can pay." He smiled. "You're waiting here for me." "Of course I'm treating." I didn't argue. Sat down with the food. I hadn't slept well. Hadn't eaten. My stomach twisted a little. Rain tapped against the windows. I stared out, lost in thought. Evening fell. It was just me and Kevin. The streetlights hadn't turned on yet. The world was blue. I looked at the reflection in the glass, me and Kevin smiling softly behind me. I turned, thinking he was going to say something. But the moment I moved, he dodged his gaze, pretending to study the boiling Odin. Before I could wonder, ding. The door opened. A tall figure headed straight to the counter. "Luis." He stared awkwardly at the condoms on the shelf, fingers twitching. Kevin clearly knew him. Glanced at me. Luis's hand reached for the cheapest generic brand. I raised my brows. His parents were average folks. They'd poured everything into his piano dream, coaches, contests, flights. He had talent won big. But art is expensive. Fancy suits. Best instruments. They were always broke. In the past life he made it. Hit it big. His family finally breathed. But now, after all the surgeries, they were in debt. And dating Julia cost money. Buying the cheap ones meant they were scraping the bottom. I strolled over. Patted him on the shoulder. Luis. He flinched. Turned to me. Selena? You're here too? Came to pick universities with Kevin. Luis swallowed. Silently put the box down. Forced a smile. Congrats on topping the province. Not sure yet. I glanced at the box he touched. Buying something? He grabbed the most expensive brand. Ultra thin. Kevin smiled as he scanned it. That'll be 130. WeChat? Yeah. Luis glanced at me. Selena, I'll get going. My girlfriend's waiting. Right. Subtle jab. I looked outside. Sure enough, Julia was pouting, clearly unhappy I talked to him. I stepped back politely. All right. Bye. Chapter 10. By the time Kevin got off work, it was already past midnight. He took the laptop from my hands. Sorry to keep you waiting. Let me take you to get something good. I was freeloading a meal, true, but he'd worked all day. I couldn't let him overspend. Sure. I want beef noodles near the university district. He blinked. Just that? You don't have to worry about my money. I actually earn quite a bit. But I want to wait till we're both at Beijing, then eat everything together. Kevin sighed, smiling. All right. Let's go. While we waited for the noodles, 2 people hurried down the hotel stairs nearby. Luis looked furious, he'd even buttoned his shirt wrong. Behind him, Julia chased after, crying. She tried to grab his arm, he shook her off. They went like that for several steps. A handsome man and a pretty girl, hard not to look. Luis's eyes were bloodshot. You swore there wasn't anything. Julia sobbed, tears glistening. He forced me. And by then I'd already given up on you. But you, why do you keep pushing me away? Why do you still like Selena? The noodle stand sat at the bottom of a little slope. I ate expressionlessly as if their drama had nothing to do with me. Until I bit into cilantro. I frowned. Seeing that Kevin grabbed a clean pair of chopsticks and carefully picked out the cilantro for me. He didn't speak until Luis and Julia were back to clinging to each other and left. You came because you knew Luis would be here, didn't you? Yes. I'd seen the hotel keycard, with the hotel's name printed on it. But I answered a different question. Kevin, if you hadn't come that night, could I have held on for 3 minutes? He had finished removing every leaf of cilantro. He shook his head. No. 3 minutes is long. Even police race the clock. In 3 minutes they could have done damage you'd never erase. Selena, there were too many of them. I thought waiting for the police would be enough. Truth is, if I hadn't pulled you out, your clothes would have been torn. I'm glad I stepped in. Chapter 11. 3 minutes. For the longest time, 3 minutes was my obsession. Luis asked me bitterly, Selena, why couldn't you hold on for 3 more minutes? Before Julia jumped, she cursed me. Selena. The police were 3 minutes away. How dare you tell them where I was? After she fell, everyone loved her. They mourned a life so young and beautiful. Classmates whispered, if the police had arrived 3 minutes earlier, Selena wouldn't have revealed Julia's location. What a pity. Those words flayed me alive over and over. Yet after Julia's death, Luis became my gentle childhood sweetheart again. He told me, Selena, it wasn't your fault. She brought it on herself. But he also beat up the guys who'd circulated her videos. Knowing I'd indirectly caused someone's death shattered me. I teetered on the edge of a breakdown. I couldn't read. Couldn't study. One day I walked into Luis's room. He was watching the video. Julia's cries, the thug's laughter, and the moans dragged me straight into hell. Luis's face was corpse pale. Selena. I can't delete them. I've reported site after site, but the videos spread like a virus. Even in death, can't Julia be clean? I curled on the floor and screamed. Luis held me, crushing me to his chest. He said the words, it'll be okay, Selena. You'll get through this. I begged him to turn it off. He didn't. He only comforted me. At some point I blacked out. I woke to a diagnosis, moderate depression. The sounds never left my ears. I ruined my college entrance exam, unsurprisingly. Luis nudged my parents into enrolling me at a second-tier university near his conservatory. He told them earnestly, Uncle, Anta, take Selena away from here so she stops spiraling. Come to Haichang. A new environment will help. I can look after her. His devotion moved everyone, including me. I forgot the small tells. At university he had money, but still took me to damn dim hotels to sleep together. He was gentle in daily life but rough in bed. Everyone praised my happiness, envied me, so I decided violence and sex was normal. Later he got famous. Bought a home. But at night I still heard the sounds from Julia's video. I woke Luis. He looked into my eyes tender. Selena, it's auditory hallucinations. He held me tighter, told me it was my unstable mind making me hear things. Then we married. The day after our wedding he brought another woman home. They kissed. Slept together. In our bedroom. Only then did I understand. Luis had been trying to drive me insane all along. But by then, I couldn't get a divorce. Chapter 12. Just as I'd hoped. In this life I wasn't dragged down by Julia or Luis. I got into Beijing University majoring in journalism and communications. Kevin chose computer science. We followed our plans. In senior year Kevin started a company with his roommates. I interned at a TV station. We fell in love, sweetly naturally, and got engaged. At 25, the age I died in my previous life, I launched my own entertainment company. Kevin and I were invited back to our high school as distinguished alumni to give a speech. That day our class group chat was buzzing for once. Many people tagged me. Selena, congrats. Selena, any chance I can get a ticket to Joe Dushu's concert? Please, it's impossible to get one. OMG, I want Chang Cha's autograph. She's my goddess. By the way, what about Luis? Wasn't he and Selena the class couple? As soon as Luis was mentioned, the chat went awkwardly quiet. Some people even typed. The classmate who mentioned him backpedaled. Oops, my bad. Forget I said anything. But didn't Luis marry Julia? I heard they both repeated a year. Yeah, my junior said they were pretty messy, always doing public apologies under the school flag. Is Luis still in this group? Guess he is. Watching the messages scroll by, I looked up at the sky. Since the moment I stepped back into this place, Luis's name had become just another echo. Finally, I replied in the group. Long time no see, everyone. Let me treat you all to dinner when the time comes. Chapter 13. Our family address hadn't changed. When we pulled up downstairs, I caught a glimpse of a familiar figure. Luis. But he no longer had that starlight glow. He looked nothing like the radiant celebrity of my past life. Loose stubble shadowed his jaw, hair messy. He was still tall but hunched. His right hand wore a glove, maybe to cover the scar. Luis without his talent was like a gem stripped of its light, no different from a stone. I saw him in the rearview mirror. He didn't come up. As I unlocked the door, our neighbor from across the hall came out with the trash. We nodded in greeting. The Louises had moved out. You're Selena, right? Yes, ma'am. Hello. It's been years since you came back. Work's been hectic. After a few pleasantries, I finally stepped inside. Since graduation, I hadn't returned. I'd been busy building my company and connections. But my parents visited us in Beijing during breaks. Mom smiled and welcomed me. My girl's finally back. Where's Kevin? He'll arrive tomorrow. Oh, Mom, new neighbors across the hall? She nodded. You wouldn't know, right? Luis's family moved out 3 years ago. I blinked. Really? Why didn't you mention it? TCH. You were busy. And honestly, that kid, too much trouble. I didn't want you to end up like him. What happened? Luis and Julia went to a second-tier local college. His grades weren't great. His whole skill tree was maxed in piano. But even after repeating, he scored 70 points higher than Julia. Julia barely made the cut. Her choices were limited. Luis cared about her enough to apply to the same college, though he could have picked a better one. Luis's mom thought he was bewitched. Even hired a feng shui master to fix his room. Didn't work. Luis's dad was a regular worker. His mom, unemployed, had pinned all hopes on managing his music career. When that dream shattered, she started selling snacks near campus. Mom sighed. I don't mean to judge, but your aunt had it rough. And that boy. When he walked by her stall with classmates, didn't even look at her. Luis had always been good-looking. Elegant. Admired. I'd liked him partly for that aura. But if his mom was at a stall, could someone used to praise ever bow his head? Junior year, Julia got pregnant. I wasn't surprised. They wanted to keep it secret but couldn't even afford the hospital. Luis's mom found out. Turns out Julia's uterine lining was thin. A termination would risk future pregnancy, so she dropped out for a year. It became gossip all over campus. People talked. Pointed. Word was Luis graduated only because a marriage certificate earned him bonus credits. But later Julia tripped on the stairs, miscarried. After that they sold the old apartment, scraped up a down payment on a modest place. They'd bought at market peak. Now it was worth far less. Chapter 14. The night I treated the whole class to dinner, Luis showed up. Now that we were adults, people naturally split into social ranks. Our roles had reversed. I was the one surrounded in the center and he sat quietly in the farthest corner. Throughout the night I said less than 3 sentences to him. He just drank silently in his corner, eyes flickering with unease every time he looked my way. Eventually I broke the ice. I approached and sat beside him. Long time no see. His eyes lit up with surprise. Long time no see, Selena. The way he said my name still carried the old affection. How have you been? My mom said your family moved 3 years ago. He avoided my eyes, gaze drifting away. Not bad. Just living. Like catching up with an old friend, I asked the usual empty questions. What do you do now? Quit my job recently. My folks and I are planning to open a hot pot place. That's great. So when I go, do I get the friend's family discount? His eyes sparkled a bit. We'll probably open in a month. Will you come? Of course. I've got time this month, staying with my parents. When you open, I'll come support you. Okay. Chapter 15. Over the next month, Luis and I returned to being childhood friends. We saw each other often. Sometimes I'd share little stories with him. Like when I attended the Chopin International Piano Competition as an audience member. Maybe I picked up a bit of artistic taste from hearing you play as a kid, I said with a smile. I really enjoyed it. Then I added softly, eyes on him. Of course. I do regret something. If only you had competed, you'd have won something, I'm sure. I glanced down at his hand. Pinkish scar tissue stretched across his palm. He instinctively hid it behind his back. I didn't say more. Oh right. You married Julia, didn't you? Why isn't she with you today? At her name a flicker of disgust crossed his eyes. She only cares about playing mahjong now. Doesn't care about anything at home. Mahjong? Perfect. Gambling is like a black pit. People standing at the edge think it's just another night and day. They don't know a single gust of wind can suck them into the abyss. And I would be that wind. On day 15 of meeting up with Luis, I finally saw the adult version of Julia. I'd heard she'd had several miscarriages. She used to starve herself all day to stay slim, but she'd always eat the milk candy Luis gave her. Now the former campus beauty had grown soft around the edges. She was raging with jealousy. Luis. You fucking cheating bastard. Selena, don't you have any shame? Still not over him after all these years? I had so many miscarriages because of you. And this is how you repay me? Is it because I'm not as pretty as Selena now? You dumped her back then for me because I was prettier, didn't you? I had no interest in hearing her filth. I turned to Luis, nodded politely. This is a family matter. I'll excuse myself. In the rearview mirror, I saw Luis shove Julia to the ground. Their faces twisted and snarling, like 2 resentful ghosts bound together by hate. How ironic. Some people survive life and death together but fall apart over dinner and dirty laundry. Chapter 16. When Luis found me, I was standing outside the music room at our old high school. Inside, a boy was playing piano. He had a delicate face, dressed in nothing more than jeans and a plain white tee. His fingers glided across the keys, melodies flowing like water, tender and soul-stirring. A true prodigy, I said, glancing at Luis, who was sweating under the summer sun. Though not as good as you used to be. Luis blinked. Really? I nodded. Over the years I've met a lot of musicians. Most don't come close to your talent. But this one, he's got it. Looks talent, he's going places. I'm planning to sign him. He followed my gaze. Him? Yes, he. Before I could finish, Luis cut me off. What about me? You. I worked hard to hide the ridicule in my eyes. Luis lowered his head, mist forming in his eyes. He stared at his right hand. If my hand hadn't been injured, would my life be different? Maybe. He closed his eyes and slumped against the wall. I wish I'd never met Julia. She ruined me. He always blamed someone else. I patted the back of his hand gently. Don't be so down. There's a gala tonight. Come with me. Chapter 17. At the gala I wore a gown and moved among other CEOs of entertainment companies, glass in hand. I had no time for Luis. I told him to help himself to food and drinks. Eventually I ran into Joel, the most renowned pianist in the country. His concerts were sold out months in advance. Like Luis once was, Joel had become famous young. This gala was hosted by his wife. He was known for spoiling her. At that moment he was casually playing piano, just for fun. As expected, Luis's eyes lit up. He probably missed being that version of himself. When the piece ended I brought Joel over to him. Joel, this is Luis. You used to be his idol. Luis? Joel mused, reaching out his left hand. That name sounds familiar. Nice to meet you. Luis instinctively extended his right hand, but when the scar peeked through he flinched and pulled back. Joel didn't mind, but something seemed to click in his memory. Luis, oh, I remember now. A talent agent I knew once told me they'd discovered someone just like me, named Luis. I even laughed at how excited they were. But then nothing ever came of it. Something happened? Luis's face turned ghost white. His throat locked up, no words would come. I stepped in. Yeah, probably. He injured his hand, so he couldn't play anymore. Joel sighed. That's a shame. There aren't many people who impress that agent. I was one. You were another. What a twist of fate. Luis didn't say a word the rest of the night. When I finally drove him home I simply said, we're here. He suddenly asked me, Selena, if there had never been Julia, would we have ended up together? I raised an eyebrow, took out the engagement ring from my purse. I don't do hypotheticals. My fiancé would get jealous. Luis clenched his jaw, eyes brimming with red. Just then his phone rang. The call shattered whatever emotion was brewing. He picked up. Hello? Mom? The phone speaker was loud. I could hear everything. His mother was crying hysterically on the other end. Luis. Luis. She took the money for the renovations. The workers are banging on our door demanding full payment. Luis lost it. He screamed into the phone. Fuck. That goddamn bitch. He didn't say goodbye. Just threw open the door and flagged down a cab, disappearing down the street. I watched as the blue taxi shrank into it, in the distance. Then took out a cigarette, bit into the mint capsule, and felt a rush of cold pleasure shiver through me. From somewhere deep inside came a satisfaction so sharp it made me tremble. Chapter 18. Luis rushed to the mahjong parlor where Julia always hung out. His eyes were bloodshot, years of resentment and failure pushed him to the brink. Julia. Get the fuck out here. He kicked over a mahjong table. But when he found her, she was sitting on Eric's lap. Eric. Luis nearly collapsed. He'd gotten out of prison 2 months ago. And now the man who'd ruined his life was here smirking. Luis trembled. He couldn't tell if it was from anger or pain. Julia stood up instinctively. Honey, I can explain. I was about to win everything back. Luis grabbed the nearest kettle and hurled it at her. Boiling water splashed across her arm. Angry red welts bloomed instantly. Eric stood up, all fake calm. Hey man, chill. Me and your wife? Not like that. She just sat on me 'cause there's no space here. Julia screamed in pain, all reason gone. You're fucking insane. I'm doing this for us. We're broke as hell. I haven't even bought new makeup. You think we can pay the mortgage with your pathetic $3K a month? Only a loser like you buys property at market peak. You took out loans we can't repay. Why should I stay with a failure like you? Besides, renovation money's joint property. I used half, so what? My biggest regret was dumping Eric for you. Luis's head throbbed. You shameless piece of... Julia fired back. You're worse than shameless, you're useless. She hit where it hurt. Luis heard voices echo in his head. If only your hand hadn't been injured. His talent still doesn't compare to yours. It's rare for that agent to be so excited. Such a shame. Selena, if it hadn't been for Julia, would we have? Yes. Selena. I always loved Selena. Yes. If only Julia didn't exist. If only Julia didn't exist. No Julia. How can I make Julia disappear? His eyes landed on the fruit knife beside the fruit tray. Chapter 19. I looked at the chaos inside. Panic. Murder. Someone's been killed. Call the police. Get an ambulance. Some were already live streaming, phones pointed through the open windows. I saw Luis holding a knife soaked in blood, a strange smile twisting his face. His expression was freer than I'd ever seen it. Like he was finally liberated. All I did was rig a few games of poker. Let Julia and Eric win just enough to think they were an unstoppable duo. I looked up at the hanging moon. Each step I took it followed me, shining its pale light on me alone, even lighting up the darkest alleyways. Like it was guiding me out of that alley. From 7 years ago. That chaotic night. Kevin carried my body out of that place. But my soul it never left. When I finally walked out on my own, the neon lights flickered around me. For a second I lost my sense of direction. I leaned against a wall, eyes closed, letting the pain roll through me. Then warmth wrapped around me. A navy coat still carrying Kevin's scent. In the night wind he stepped toward me through the light. Held me tightly. Kissed my hair with a smile. Wife, it's freezing tonight. Why are you dressed so light? I buried myself in his chest. My tears soaked into the corner of his suit. Kevin. I love you. And I love you more. Chapter 20. Luis wanted to open a hot pot restaurant. To piece his shattered life back together. No way I'd let him have that. Because I once dreamed of a fresh start too. I begged him for a divorce, he refused. Until one day we met briefly backstage. Just once that month. I brought a knife and divorce papers. Sign this. Or die. He smiled. Tore the papers into pieces. Threw them into the trash. Then grabbed my wrist. Forced my hand toward him with the blade. The next second? A crowd of journalists burst in. Click. Flash. Click. Hashtag Luis's wife is mentally unstable hashtag. The hashtag went viral. His fans went feral. They demanded he divorce me. That I be jailed. The public trial nearly destroyed me. Until Luis held a press conference. From his hospital bed. He said. My wife and I grew up together. She's just not well right now. Please stop hating her. Mental illness deserves compassion. And so he came up with a compromise. He had me committed. Chapter 21. The last time I saw Luis was in prison. His mother said he had asked to see me. So I went. Through the glass I looked at the man sitting inside. It had only been 6 months yet he was already skin and bones, like he'd aged 10 years. His voice was hoarse as he picked up the receiver. Selena. For the past 6 months I kept having a dream, or maybe it wasn't a dream. Maybe someone had stuffed a different memory into my mind. Oh. It was another version of life. That night he gave up Julia's location. She had been assaulted but my hand wasn't injured. We stayed together. I even became the most celebrated pianist in the country. And we got married, just as we were meant to. I looked at him and gave a cold mocking smile. Maybe you're just under too much stress lately. But reality isn't so bad, is it? You lost a hand, yes. But you saved your beloved's life. Isn't that noble? He stared at me, quiet, calm. I politely said goodbye. Luis, behave in prison. Goodbye. But just as I was about to hang up he suddenly called out. Selena. I kept the receiver pressed to my ear. His eyes were red. His voice choked as if repeating a truth he still couldn't believe. Selena, I never told you this, but in that dream Julia was already dead from the beginning. Look at that. Caught yourself slipping, didn't you? Funny how people always let things slip when they think they've won. But so what? I chuckled softly. Really? Then I must have misheard. Chapter 22. 3 years later. Our old class group chat suddenly lit up. Breaking news. Breaking news. A friend of mine works as a prison guard. He says Luis, the guy from our class who murdered his wife 3 years ago, died in prison recently. Right before he died he was still babbling about being some famous piano maestro. But didn't he lose his hand back in high school? Yeah. He did.